Well, it's time for Media Watch. James Creedon is with us in the studio.
Hi, Laura.
Good to see you, James. And we're going to start with online reaction to the refugee crisis at the border between Greece and Turkey.
That's right, and notably one video that's got an awful lot of attention online today. Let's take a look at these images that were sort of shared by the Turkish authorities. So I think it's worth bearing in mind that these are, there's an information conflict going on online that reflects the conflict at the Greek-Turkish border. So these images appear to show the Greek Coast Guard being very aggressive towards these migrants or refugees on a boat, and the Coast Guard appears to be basically preventing them from refueling and also pushing them back. So it's an image that has been used by a lot of Turkish people on social media to call the Greek reaction a disgrace. Now, of course, it's all highly politicised because Recep Tayyip Erdogan is also being criticised from the Greek and the European side for basically creating the crisis and allowing these concentrations of people to go across the border. Others saying that those images have been playing all day. This is actually our own Ludovic de Foucault for the French network of France 24 based in Istanbul, and he says that those images have been playing on a loop on Turkish TV all day, I suppose, as a negative reflection of the Greek reaction. Greek hospitality, welcome in Greece refugees. Shame on Europe, says one reaction here. Anyway, just to kind of go through some other reactions to this. This is Yanis Varoufakis, the former finance minister of Greece, left wing, and he's saying humanity and national dignity need to be maintained, not militarisation, walls or national hysteria. He goes on to say that there shouldn't be a militarisation of the border. I suppose you could say then, what's the alternative? The Greeks have had enough of this destruction of Europe. They've lived with this for a decade, says another commentator, more on the right wing of the spectrum, I think you could say. They've lived with this for a decade, and actually blaming here NGOs for being too accommodating. And indeed, on the island of Lesbos, there was quite a violent reaction towards some NGOs that were beefing up their ability to answer the crisis. These are images that are being shared as well, Laura, of the UNHCR, of course, managing refugee crisis, their migrant reception centre on the island of Lesbos, which was apparently burning at one point.
There's been trouble there for a while, hasn't there? People are literally stuck there.
That's it. So Greek islanders are preventing the migrants from disembarking, and so you can see that it's really reaching fever pitch now on all sides.
Got EU ministers swooping into Greece tomorrow to try and come up with a solution.
That's it. It's
As the aid workers say, the refugees are really being used as political pawns.
Political footballs. Everyone is smearing Greece for rightfully securing their borders, yet it was Turkey that worsened the refugee crisis by occupying Syria, backing jihadists in Syria, ethnically cleansing North Syria. These are all, I suppose, political comments, they could have different perspectives, but this is somebody supporting the Greeks. And here is somebody saying Turkey, hosting 3.7 million Syrian refugees and also safeguarding millions of civilians in Idlib, deserves the gratitude of humanity. In other words, the Turkish response to the refugee crisis is from their point of view, better than Europe's, although you could argue that Turkey's also been maybe partly responsible for the mess. Anyway, there you go. Lots more to say on that. But just one final comment from Jenan Moussa, who is a journalist for one of the Arabic language networks covering this. She said, when you covered the Turkish-Greek any Turkey-Greece related story, it's toxic, and the only thing I'm doing is finding out, checking, verifying and reporting on developments. But in other words, anytime you talk about this, it elicits a very strong emotional response from one side or the other.
Yeah, lots of people have strong opinions on that story, and it is a very emotive story, isn't it? All right, let's talk about something a bit closer to home. On Saturday night, France hosted its equivalent of the Oscars, the Césars, and there has been a lot of controversy this year surrounding the director Roman Polanski.
That's right. He got the gong for Best Director, and as a result of that, an awful lot of negative responses. You can see his name here. Instead of Polanski, is being reworked as Violonsky, and shameful César. He was convicted in 1977 of raping a 13-year-old girl using drugs. This has not been forgotten by many people who think that really the artist and that the man and the artist should not be separated, and you shouldn't be rewarding somebody in this particular situation. One actress walked out of the ceremony, while another writer and actress, writer and filmmaker, Virginie Despentes, penned this opinion piece, which was published in Libération today, and it's been getting a huge reaction on social media. Basically, she's saying that this is not a men versus women issue when it comes to Polanski and the treatment of women, and I guess France's Me Too kind of...
Balance ton port.
Yes, exactly. She said this is an issue of dominators and dominated, and she said it goes beyond French cinema. This is something that you see with police violence in France. It's when you see, for example, elements of the constitution, such as the 49 49.3, which it was used to force through elements of the retirement reform bill over the weekend.
Oh, right. It's really broadening out.
She really did broaden it out to kind of a general attitude of the powers that be in France, where victims aren't listened to. And she said this system, so she's talking, as I said, about French cinema, but also French political system as well. This system is becoming unbearable. The air is unbreathable. We need to stand up and walk out. In other words, when victims aren't listened to and just repressed and told to shut up, and if you don't shut up, you'll be forced to shut up. The answer to that is just to walk out. Now, some people developed a hashtag for her, Laura, saying "Des Ponts for 2022," the next presidential election. Others are saying she's mixing up everything, and in the end, she's not really saying anything very clear. It's too confused as a kind of a reasoning, and actually, reason is not a part, or reasoning is not really present in this letter. So people were really in favour of her, and others saying, look, actually, you're mixing up a lot of different things.
A polarising figure.
Yes.
All right. Shall we end with Narendra Modi?
Yes.
The Indian Prime Minister. He has decided to delete some social media sites.
Now, he's one of the most followed political leaders in the world.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's got a huge following on Twitter and Instagram and others.
Does he follow anyone?
I'm not sure if he actually follows a lot of people, but he has said that he's going to give it all up, right? Now,
why?
Give it all up. And some people are saying, he's kind of posturing here as somebody who thinks that a digital detox would be a good idea. But actually, isn't this just diverting attention from the Delhi violence?
Oh, yeah.
Others saying he needs to give up hatred, not social media accounts. That's Rahul Gandhi's reaction to it. So, cynicism.
All right, James, thank you very much indeed. James Creedon there with Media Watch. Now, time